Hello everybody, Tim Norris here, aka GreyElephant, coming to you from GreyElephant Gaming. And today we're going to be taking a look at Baldrick's Tomb. This is a how-to-play video, which will take you through setup all the way to in-game victory conditions. First, locate the deck of cards that say treasure cards on them. You'll know what they are. They're always a coin with a number value. And place them on the board where it says treasure cards. Next, locate the scroll cards. They're the blue ones. They say scroll cards. And place them up here in the corner where it says scroll cards. As such. Look for the deck that says trap cards. And you're going to place them up there in the top right hand corner where it says trap cards. Next, locate your deck of monster cards. They're the purple ones. Now, before you put these onto the board, what you're going to first do is you're going to look and you're going to divide them by level. We have 3 levels of monsters: level 1s, level 2s, level 3s. So at the start of the game, pull out all your level 1 monsters, leave the other ones to the side, mix them up, place them on the board on the purple stack here where it says monster cards. As such. Next, let's take our impending doom marker. And we're going to place it over here on the side of the board, above the treasure, below the scroll cards, on the number 1 spot on the impending doom. Just like that. Next, let's take the going down marker and the Baldrick's gem, and we're going to place them up here on the level track. So we're going to take the going down marker, place it on level 1. Baldrick's gem will go on level 2. Each person can select one of the 4 characters that they would like to represent them as they go through the dungeon. We'll pick her. And let's go ahead and pick him, because he's got a bird on his shoulder. That's awesome. And we'll make it a 2-player game. Each one of the characters then will take a red marker and a green marker, placing the red marker on the 6 and the green marker on the 0. The red markers represent your health. The green markers represent poison. Make sure you get your matching character and just go ahead and place them here for now. And we'll place them on the board here in just a bit. But what's a dungeon without treasure, right? Take all the treasure and you can dump it right here into the treasury. Depending on how you're wanting to play the game, you can take skill cards, give 5 to each player, and then they select 3 and add them to their 3 available spots on their player board. Or you just randomly select 3 and place them on there. I like to give each player 5, but given the fact that we don't have an entire game being played, we will just randomly put 3 on each one of the characters. And skill cards I will explain in more detail later. Each player would also receive 2 of the scroll cards. So go ahead and just draw 2 cards from the top of the deck for each player. And typically these would be played face down. You can keep them hidden from your opponents, but given the fact we're doing a how to play, we will keep them face up. There are 3 monster damage markers. Take those and place them to the side of the board. They'll be used for later. Go through all the rubble tokens. Look for the exit one. Place it on the board for, at the moment, just anywhere. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the rest of the rubble tokens, place them all face down, and you're going to randomly select 10 of them that'll be placed onto the board that'll begin the first floor of your dungeon. Once you've selected your 10 random rubble tokens, plus your 1 exit token, turn them all to the rubble side, shuffle them together, and begin creating your first floor dungeon. Determine the starting player and give that person the first to land token. In this case, let's make our little princess looking girl here our starting player. What she'll do now is she's going to take our 11 tokens, our rubble tiles, and she's going to place them randomly around the board wherever she wishes, with the rule that none of the tiles can be side by side, like that. There always has to be a space between them, like what you see right here. Starting with the player with the first to land marker, take your 2 dice and roll them. Take the red die first, then the blue die, and that'll determine where you enter into the dungeon. In this case, she will enter in on the spot 66, right there. Next player can do the same thing. He has 18, so we'll place him right there. Now, if she would have rolled to where she was on top of a rubble stack, that is perfectly acceptable. However, you can never share a space with your opponent. So, in this case, if he would have rolled a 66 as well, he would not be able to start in the same location where she is. That would require a reroll. Now we begin to explore Baldrick's tomb. The person with the first to land marker goes first. And each time that this person takes a turn, we will increase the impending doom marker by 1 space. So, we will do that now. And then she is ready to take her turn. Now, on your turn, you have 4 movement points that you can spend. However, you can never move diagonally, only orthogony. So that'd be left, right, or up and down. You can move through other characters. However, like I mentioned earlier, you can never share a same location as another character. Now, with the 4 movement points that you have, if you do have gold in your supply, you would be allowed to spend 2 gold pieces for 1 extra bonus movement point. Let's show an example of an entire turn by the first player. Let's say she decides to move here, and then if she decides, she can move onto this rubble token, which would immediately then flip the token over to reveal what's on the other side. Now, the different types of rubble tokens, or you can possibly find monsters, you can find scrolls, you can find traps, you can find healing fountains, you can find treasure. Now, there's also the exit token that's somewhere in here, and that's how we're going to advance from one floor to the next. So, because she did reveal this, we're going to pull that off the board for a moment, and she would go over here to the treasure cards, flip the top card, however amount of treasure it says she gained, discard that top card, and add that many pieces of treasure to her supply. Now she still has 2 more movement points. She can go ahead and spend those by moving this direction, and that would be the end of her turn. However, we now have to add this rubble token that she removed from the game. And the way that we're going to do that is by rolling the 2 dice that we rolled for placement, taking the red one first, then the blue one, and just placing it on the spot that it shows. Now, let's say if that rubble token that she was placing on, she would have rolled the number where a rubble token already existed. In that case, she would have just picked anywhere next to that rubble token where she would have wanted to put this treasure box. Now it would be the other player's turn. So, the first thing he can do, he can decide to move onto this spot here, revealing a scroll. Whenever you reveal a scroll, just take the top card and add it to your already supply of scrolls, and we will go over these in just a second. And then remove the token, and then just continue with your turn. 2, 3, 4, revealing a healing fountain. Now, a healing fountain, what that would do is if at any time, let's say if he only had 2 health, this would actually restore his health all the way back up to its fullest potential. Now that his turn is over, once again, he would go ahead and roll the dice and place these tokens back on the board wherever the die tells him to. As such. Now notice each one of the characters have skills. They each have 3 different types of skills. And in the whole stack of these, let me show you real quick. All of these are completely different, and that does keep the game unique, because you never know what kind of skill sets your character will have from one game to the next. But let's take a look at them. For instance, Escape Artist. You can choose to run away from a monster by instead increasing your poison marker a number of spaces equal to the monster's level. So for instance, let's say that he was going to be battling one of the big bad monsters, a level 3 werewolf. he doesn't feel like he's going to be able to beat him because let's say his health is too low. Let's put it about right there. What he could choose to do then instead is he could increase his poison 1, 2, 3, which would be the level of that werewolf. Instead of fighting it, that would allow him to run away. There's also other abilities, like Utility Mage, that if you decided to, you can discard a scroll, and that would add 2 to a combat roll against a monster. So just how do you fight a monster? Why don't we go over that right now? Now that the blue player has totally finished his turn, it would go back to the other player, the pink player. The first thing she would do, go ahead and increase the impending doom marker. Now, before I talk about the monsters, let's talk about this impending doom marker. We have on here, at the number 4 spot, it says hard, normal, and easy at the number 6 spot. Depending on how difficult you wish the game to be, well, in other words, how quick you want the game to necessarily be as well, depends on what level you would want to play on. This gives you more time in each floor. However, by decreasing this, it gives you less time. Thus, what would happen is you could possibly fail to exit this floor, thus incurring the penalty of losing half of your gold. Now, that does not prevent you from advancing to the next floor. It just carries the penalty of losing gold. And let's face it, gold is how you win the game, so you don't want to lose your gold. So now that we've increased the impending doom marker again, we're going to go ahead and move her 4 spaces. But instead of going through that the normal way like I just already showed you, let's just find a monster that we could possibly fight. There we go. So she moves 1, 2 onto there, and the first thing she would do is go ahead and flip the monster card right here. Now, early in the game, all the monsters in the deck will be level 1 monsters, so they're going to be easy. Oh no, it's a bat! So this just signifies the title of what the character is. This tells you how many hit points. He has 1 hit point. Hit him 1 time, he is a gone. Beat him up, you get 2 gold. Now, let's go down here to the bottom. What you're going to do whenever you battle a monster is you're just going to roll the 8-sided die. Now, sometimes your skill cards will add benefits to the die roll. Depending, sometimes you'll get a +1 to your attack. For instance, remember the Utility Mage, discard a scroll, you could add 2 bonus points to your attack. So, let's look at the little symbols here, and let's describe what these mean. If she attacked the bat, and if she was to roll a 1, the bat would immediately run away. If she was to roll a 2 or a 3, the claw means that the bat would hit her, thus reducing her health down 1 spot. If she rolled a 4, she would hit the bat with the sword. However, that little drop means that the bat would poison her, thus increasing the poison marker up 1. Now, something to keep in mind is that if this poison marker ever meets with your health marker, you have been knocked out, and I'll explain what that means in just a minute. A 5, 6, 7, or 8 means that she has clobbered the bat successfully, and then she would collect the value of the gold, which she did roll an 8, and so she would collect 2 gold out of the supply here and add it to her supply. Now, she had a couple of movement points left, so what we're going to do is move her down here, and I noticed that there was a trap. Traps are simple. All you do with a trap, just take the top card of the trap card here and just follow whatever it says. For instance, a tripwire, discard 3 gold. Well, that's a bummer. Now, there are times, and let's look at what he has here, where you can avoid traps. For instance, agility. Move up to 3 additional spaces this turn, or ignore the effects of a drawn trap card. Unfortunately, she does not have that card. So, she would have to absorb that damage, or incur, and discard her 3 gold back into the supply as such. Last but not least, she would roll the dice to try to get these placed on. So let's just say they went there and there, and it would be the blue player's turn again. This continues each floor until eventually somebody finds the exit. Now, whoever locates the exit will immediately gain 1 gold piece. Whoever leaves the floor first also will gain 1 gold piece, and will also gain the first to land token, which means that when we set up the next floor, they would be the first person to roll the dice to put their character onto the board. So why don't we show how that works? So the blue player revealed the exit, so let's say he did exit out. And let's say the pink player was still in. So we would just take his character off the board, over to the side. He can't do anything more. Now it would be up to her to try to get up here to the exit and escape before the impending doom got all the way to the number 6 or 4 or 5, depending on how difficult you want to play the game. If she did not escape, she will lose half her gold. But once she does get out of there, she would just join him over there. He would go ahead and take the first to land token. And each person then would also reset their poison markers all the way down to 0 and their health back up to 6. We're going to take all these tiles and we're going to flip them back over again, including the exit token. Mix them all up. However, we are going to take the going down marker, move it down another to the second floor, and now that we're on the second floor, we're going to go ahead and put Baldrick's gem into play as well, which if you notice on the back, looks just like another one of these rubble tokens. So you're just going to have to hunt for this. The benefit of Baldrick's gem is that it's worth 5 treasure, so 5 gold coins. So go ahead and just place that face down as well. Mix everything up like you did when you originally created the dungeon. Now, the other thing you're going to do, now that we're on level 2, is we're going to go through our monster deck and we're going to pull out all of our level 2 monsters, leaving the level 3 monsters out, but they will go in when we hit the level 3 spot. We're going to take all of these, we're going to take any monsters we defeated, and we're going to shuffle them all back together, creating a nice big monster stack again of new characters that we're going to have to deal with. Any of our trap cards, let's go ahead and shuffle those all back together. Basically what you're going to be doing is you're just going to be creating a whole new floor, just like what we did when we started the entire game. Any treasure cards drawn, just shuffle them. You would also do the same with any scroll cards that were discarded. And go ahead and reset your impending doom marker all the way back up to 1 again. Now, the person that has the first to land would take all of these rubble tokens, shuffle them all together, put them back out on the board again, and then you would start over on floor 2. Now that we've got all the tiles set out again, the character with the first to land would go ahead and roll the 2 dice. A 48, go ahead and enter into the dungeon, and let's just say she rolled a 73. Now one thing to remember, once again, you can start on top of a rubble token. That is perfectly legal, no problem. And as soon as it's your turn, you would have to resolve that. But you know what? Speaking of that, let's talk about something here real quick. Let's say she did start on a rubble token. And remember, you can move through other characters. So let's say he decided to move through her. Now, he's the active player, so therefore he would actually make that rubble token flip over. Now, he didn't share that spot because he's moving through. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he would be having to resolve both of these tokens here. Which, if you noticed, he actually did get Baldrick's gem and a scroll, so that's not too shabby. So he would draw the scroll, and then Baldrick's gem would actually just go into his supply of his treasure. Go ahead and roll the 2 dice, decide where the scroll's going. We'll just say we rolled a 46 like that. Now, Baldrick's gem is a pretty valuable piece of treasure. I'd have to say you would agree with that. And sometimes what you're going to want to do, well, you want to be the one who owns it, right? So let's say that you are actually adjacent to another character that has Baldrick's gem. What you can do at that point, you can decide if you want to go ahead and battle for or steal Baldrick's gem from that player. And the way you would do that is you'd both roll a die. Add any modifiers from any scrolls that you might have or possibly skills. You know, that could possibly add 1 to your attack value or whatever. So let's say she rolled a 4 and he rolled a 7. So because he did roll higher than her, she would receive a wound. However, let's say that she rolled an 8. That means that she would have actually taken it from him, and then she could even still continue to move away from him as well. But given the fact that he did roll higher, she would have taken the hit point and he would have hung on to it. Now she can attack again, but just keep in mind, you know, chances are you're going to keep taking wounds. So what happens if your health ever gets all the way down to 0, or let's just say it meets up with your poison marker? Same effect. Well, that means you're knocked out. getting knocked out means basically that you're going to lose half of your gold, and then what's going to happen is that you're just going to re-enter Baldrick's tomb. Let's say that you had any rubble tiles that you had on here. For instance, like let's say she had the scroll, but then she met a monster that beat her up. Let's see if we can find a monster here real quick. Rawr! And he beat her up, right? So her health got reduced all the way down. She couldn't beat that monster up. So she loses half of her gold rounded down. And then what will also happen is that you're going to roll the 2 dice, and then you would just re-enter Baldrick's tomb. So like a 54 there. You would also then reset your health all the way back up to 6 and your poison all the way back to 0. Plus take your rubble tokens, roll the dice, and just put them back onto the board as you normally would. If you were the player that had Baldrick's gem and you got knocked out, Baldrick's gem would be given to the player that had the least amount of gold. So if he got knocked out, she would immediately just obtain Baldrick's gem. Something that might happen at some point in time is that you're going to run into a monster that you can't beat, all right? Now, what you can do is you can decide to try to just run away. Remember, he can increase his poison marker to try to run away. Or what you also can do is you can discard the amount of gold equal to the monster's level. So for instance, he is a level 3 monster. And let's say he was getting to the point where he's getting beat up too much. He could discard that amount of gold back into the treasury and run away from this guy like a big fat chicken. Now, one other monster I want to show you real quick is a monster that has a symbol, because we showed you the runaway, we showed you the poison, we showed you the swords. However, there's also a monster that'll have like this coin. So what that means is that any time that you would roll either a 1 or a 2, right here, you would actually take an additional coin from the treasury and just add it to the value of the gold you would gain if you defeated the monster. So each time you roll a 1 or 2, it's actually kind of cool because you're just gaining more and more treasure for the hopeful, inevitable defeat of that creature. So this is the basics on how you play Baldrick's Tomb, and what's going to happen is the second floor, you're just going to look for the exit, keep advancing down until finally you get to the 4th floor and everybody exit. At that point in time, or possibly even the impending doom marker gets to the point where it can't go any further. At that point in time, each player is just going to add up how much gold that they've gathered up throughout the dungeon, and whoever has the most wins the game. Thanks for watching. The purpose of this video was to help you get a good understanding on how Baldrick's Tomb works, take you through setup all the way to in-game victory conditions. Now, if you want my opinion on this game, check out the GreyElephant Gaming quick video review. You'll get the opinion of myself, my wife, my daughter, and also my son. Then, if you want to know more about the game beyond that, go check out the GreyElephant live play, where you'll see my son and I sit down and go through an entire game. We travel through the entire tomb. Who ends up getting the most gold at the end of that one? You'll have to watch and find out. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.